Welcome back to Ultiworld's live coverage of the 2018 High School National Invite presented by Universe Point Cleats. Coming to you live from Rockford, Illinois, here at the Mercy Health Sports Core 2 complex. We've got the boys division final between Nathan Hale and Grady. I'm Keith Rayner, joined by Charlie Eisenhood in the booth for the final game of the tournament. The boys division final, Seattle versus Atlanta. A lot on the line.
Yeah, two phenomenal ultimate cities. Again, just as we did last year, we have the best team from the South in Grady playing the best team from the Northwest in Nathan Hale. This Nathan Hale team won the Washington State Championships back in the fall. Grady won the Georgia State Championships. Though they've had an up-and-down season, they definitely have shown the capacity to be the best team, and I think we saw that this weekend. Two very athletic teams, and we are getting ready to get underway here. Hope you caught the girls' final. It was a great game, and we hope this one can match the quality that we just saw. Grady receiving. Here we go.
Nathan Hale in the white pulls to Grady, and right away we see Grady do what they like to do. Adam Miller boosting a backhand to Aiden Downey, and the one throw hold for Grady has Gauntlet fired up.
Wow. That's a way to kick a game off. Pull play, send their best player deep, immediately just bursts out of the stack, and no hesitation. Backhand goes up. Aiden Downey all alone. No problem.
I mean, Downey is known for his throwing ability, but he has been doing a lot of work downfield, and he certainly has the speed and the size to go toe-to-toe with this incredibly athletic Hale team. Downey, the junior for this Grady team and representative of the U.S. on the U20 national team, is going to be a centerpiece of this game. Find out what kind of answers Hale can come up with for him. But the Grady may actually end up being more dependent on the performance of Miller, who is an aggressive thrower, an aggressive player. I mean, he takes difficult plays on defense as well. And if he is hitting, this Grady team can be hot. But when you talk about the up-and-down season, you look back at Paideia Cup where they struggled. They were blown out by Carolina Friends. They lost 3 games at the tournament. And then even in pool play, they were not demonstrably impressive. They were struggling to put away games and prevent runs from the opposing team. But today, taking care of business with efficiency and dominance, beat Center Grove pretty handily in their semifinal match. Center Grove had been very impressive in their own right. So Grady's heating up at just the right time. Here's Miller on the pull. Disc going up to Ben Perkle. Ben Perkle looking for options. Long inside break. That one's up to Gabe Port. He'll continue to Dempsey Hope Wright. And Dempsey Hope Wright into the end zone, and it gets over the head of his target.
Well, good offense from Hale until that throw from Hope White. He just sails it, and it'll be a break chance, the first of the game for Grady.
So Miller brings it to the front of the end zone.
A light rain falling here in Rockford.
Jaden Medley-Falks comes under and gets the first touch. Now up ahead to Wilson Bradley. Miles Pearlstein with the crossfield throw to Downey, and Downey now putting up a deep shot jump ball situation, and Hope White. And now there's a stare down, a little bit of words being exchanged, but two prideful teams and a big grab for Grady for the break.
Enormous play. Just going up and getting better position and legitimately stares down Hope White, and that is not a customary sight in Ultimate. And already making the game chippy. Hope White had some words back at him after getting stared down. And that will certainly raise the intensity level as Grady gets the first break and then go up 2-0.
I mean, we talked a lot in the girls' game about the level of spirit we've seen at this tournament. But teams are also playing with a lot of intensity, and we've seen some of these teams push the boundaries a little bit, including these two teams in particular, who are high-flying athletic teams and have shown some capacity to get caught up in the moment a little bit. It's up to you to decide how you feel about that kind of interaction.
I think that's pretty disrespectful to stare down an opponent like that. Obviously, it's something you see in other sports. Very common in the NBA right now. But it's certainly going to set a tone.
So Grady breaks first, and Hale, I don't know if they've been in a 2-0 hole all tournament. But like we said, this Grady team, when they get hot, they can be tough to stop because of their size and athleticism.
Well, and Hope White's got springs.
Oh, he's a formidable deep defender.
See him get beat deep in the air. Certainly a sign, perhaps, of Grady's ability to contend with the athleticism and size of this Hale team.
So Perkle goes around to Conrad Landa. Hope White putting up a deep throw. Running out of room, though, so that one.
So rough start for Hope White. 2 throwing turnovers. Gets skied at the other end. Commonly the walrus, that's called, when you turn it over and get scored on. And so Grady with a chance to go up 3-0. And this throw is going to come back quite a distance because it never got back in bounds.
We'll see how the senior can bounce back in this trying moment to start his final. Downey getting ready to bring it in with Port on the mark. Horizontal stack here from Grady. You can see lined up directly in front of Downey is Frankie Fernandez, who's been a goal-scoring machine. Mishandled throw from Medley Phelps. So a second chance, an immediate deep throw for Hope White from Perkle is also out of bounds. So Hale's deep game not working for them to start this.
Horizontal stack from Grady. See vert from their O-line. Horizontal here from their D-line. Some uncertainty about where this disc should go back into play. They'll take a few steps back and check it in.
Floaty throw into the middle, and Port knocks it away. Perkle around to Port. Another around break for Perkle. High stall count, but Perkle is free. And a foul call here in the hands of Jasper Dean. So I'm not sure what could possibly involve this much discussion given the simplicity of the call. I think a contest is probably in order, and we can move on. And an air bounce break from Dean to Port, gets Hale their first hold and makes it 2-1.
Port invited to the under 20 tryouts, one of 3 players from this Hale team to get that distinction. Take another look at the scoring throw. Coming in off the check-in, Port's just going to zag to that break side, and nice extension on that backhand.
A tremendous throw from Dean. And Port gets the bookends. So 2-1 with Grady getting the first break. A little bit of a sloppy point there between the two teams. But you can see that there's a lot of speed on the field. And perhaps these teams are not really used to having someone on their hip through all these cuts in the way that we've seen in the beginning of this game.
I mean, we've talked about it earlier. These two teams have been the best at this tournament, and they've clearly shown it all weekend. And I think that it's very possible that there's going to be an adjustment period to dealing with the quality that's suddenly in front of them, because they haven't played a team of this caliber, both of these teams. So it's going to be a fun part of the game to watch, is to see how they adjust to the physicality and the intensity of this game. Wind starting to pick up a little bit. For really the first time all weekend, we're seeing some wind. Right now, it's going to be a lightly downwind pull for Hale.
Downey has trouble fielding the pull, and that slows down the Grady initiation. And then his high release is tipped. Fernandez goes down to get it. Around break. Kavi Jakes now into the middle for Pearlstein. Grady handlers doing a nice job making their reset cuts back into the middle of the field, but then Miller throws a little too wide and a poach block for TJ Carson. Deep throw going up. Zach Efron trying to catch up, but he cannot. It'll be a full 70, however, for Grady to go back through. Miller looks off and under. And I maybe got a little bit lucky with that throw. Downey ends up back with it in the middle of the field. And the wind is definitely picking up. Jack Persons underneath. And Persons' throw doesn't have the right edge on it, and Jakes can't get to it. So a short field opportunity for Hale to get the break. Tony Maneri catches it and throws it into the end zone. Grady looking around like there's going to be a call, but there is not. So it's the first break.
So back even on serve. Veneri with a big hard undercut here, the U20 selection for Team USA. And he says, okay, I'll throw the assist too.
So we've gone right back to even.
And mostly it's just been good, hard matchup defense from both teams. And not much in the way of strategic notes at this point. We've seen some vert stacks, some host stack. And just a lot of good athletes going toe-to-toe.
Well, I mentioned earlier that while Downey is the star of this Grady team, that Adam Miller may be the X factor in this game, whether or not he is connecting. And while he opened with that gorgeous huck to Downey to start the game with an exclamation point, he's since had 2 turnovers on pretty poor throwaways. So the lefty risk taker giveth and he taketh away. And he takes the centering pass here from Downey and gets it over to Reed Berry, getting his first touch. Downey unmarked, which seems like a mistake. Although now he will get Maneri, maybe the best defender on this Hale team. So that matchup should produce some fireworks. Miller to Persons on the open side. Senior Jacob Dillard getting his first touch. Downey layout save. Grady transitioning into a vertical stack. A gorgeously skillful high release forehand from Downey to the break side. Throws a second to Frankie Fernandez.
Filthy.
Aiden Downey just
Absolutely
casually dropping a dive.
That's a phenomenal throw. 2 times in a row. Downey gets open in the reset space, fakes that throw, and then throws it anyway. Fantastic.
As a true lover of the high release forehand, the first one's basically always free. The mark's never ready for it. But the second one, to go right back to it,
After the fake, too, to the same spot.
takes guts. Now, Downey does have a few inches on Veneri, who's a tremendously bulldog defender, but is a little lacking in the height department. So a high throw like that can perhaps be a way for Downey to leverage his height in that matchup.
So it's going to be fun to see what Hale does to try to stop Aiden Downey, who's having an amazing championship Sunday here at the National Invite. And it's we saw Maneri take the matchup that last point. Maybe we'll see more of that. As you said, Keith, Maneri likely their best defender. I mean, truly one of the elite handler defenders in the country. I mean, there's a reason he made Team USA for the U20 team.
No, I
He's
expect
a skillful handler, but an even better defender.
I expect we're going to be talking about his ability to contribute as a defender for the rest of his career. He will be immediately, wherever he winds up, a premier defensive option. Shiryar Ali talking to his Grady D-line. Long time between points. Hale waiting dutifully on their end. Downey with the pull.
And a good job to keep that disc from getting away.
So now it looks like a zone from Grady as they decide to mix it up here. Perkle, Dean, and Landa in the backfield. Port coming back to help out. Now transition to match. Hope White tries the deep throw, and
He looked to his sideline looking to coach like, what am I supposed to do? I'm not quite sure what that was, but he's had a tough start. That's his 3rd turnover.
well, the answer is go out there and play hard defense, and his team will need him to, although Medley Falks with his 2nd drop of the game gives it right back. And another short field for Hale Perkle inside break to Port, and that's just easy money for a team as skilled as Hale.
Yeah, they love that initiating cut to the break side, and once you hit that, getting the goal is trivial. I mean, you've already done the hard work at that point. You see, walk to the disc, and it's just a simple juke to that open side and then over to the break side and easy score.
The mark has to help there. And granted, you may not know that the inside break is the shown throw, so to speak, but the mark has to help the cutter because the cutter can't just stand on the break side. They'll get beaten to the open side. Mark's got to make that window a little bit smaller so that the throw is a little bit harder to execute.
Yeah,
you don't have to get a hand block, but you got to make the throw harder.
Absolutely, and you know, almost you don't want to go completely straight up in that situation, but you have to take away that dangerous pass to the inside. And you see the cutter there starting a little bit further over into the open side space to create more of a kind of a shallow break angle rather than having to throw that real tight IO. And that makes it an even easier throw for the handler, and there has to be better communication from Grady on that because clearly that's what Hale wants to do in the red zone.
Well, that's the kind of adjustment you might see them make over the course of the game as they start to get a better read on what Hale wants to do and how Perkle wants to attack. But, I mean, I'm okay with almost going flat there if you have the defensive quickness to stop Perkle's around break, which he's also gotten off a few times against Grady so far. So the D-line back out for Hale. Tie game at 3s. Zach Efron getting ready to pull. And worth noting that the rotation for Grady has been a bit shallower. Let's see if that becomes a factor later in the game. Downey takes the roll and goes into the middle for Barry. Barry just lasering a throw to Frankie Fernandez. Almost throws it.
Fernandez thought about it.
And he holstered it. So, Downey. Now Dillard, 3 yards out. Easy throw to Persons for the goal. Quick hold for Grady, 4-3.
Smooth offense from Grady. Nothing too fancy, just hitting open cutters. Downey doesn't try to do too much. Hits the under, and then cuts the front cone, and big spike, 4-3 Grady.
And part of this game will be a little bit about who can seize the energy and the momentum because these teams thrive so much on making big plays. They get real hype for each other. That type of energy is something that can be seized in a game like this, something that can be controlled and harnessed by the type of big playmakers that both teams have on their roster.
Notes for those following the game at home, this is a game to 15. The clock you see on your screen is the time until the soft cap goes on. As at USA Ultimate Championship events, there will be no hard cap. That means that the winning team will have to score to win. You can't just get saved by the bell. So at the conclusion of the clock on your screen, 2 points will be added to the team with the higher score, and that will be the new point total to which the game is played. But for now, game to 15. Sit back and enjoy.
Hale offense back on the field.
So, long time between points. We've discussed this a couple times. This weekend, no observers here at high school competition.
So there's no rules.
Oh, yeah, right. You take as long as you want between points and on timeouts. But typically they run maybe 30 seconds longer than they should in the rules.
Miller's pull, 1.5 yards out of bounds. So Perkle will get to center it up.
And perhaps pick up a couple extra yards, although it does look like he's taking it to the brick, so must have gone out at the last moment.
Looks like Another zone look, and it gets a quick turn. Dean's throw goes right to Aiden Downey, and now it's a fast break for Gauntlet. Fernandez with the drop, and again, the drops for these Grady cutters have come at inopportune moments.
Yeah, just focus mistakes. You know, maybe looking ahead, thinking about the next throw before they've completed the catch.
And that one blades over from Perkle, gives it back to Grady. Miller getting ready to bring it in, flanked by Downey with a horizontal stack in front of him. Medley Falks trapped on the sideline. Bradley with another gainer. And a late option there for Downey. A lot of contact. Looks like an uncontested foul. Jacob Greenhill.
And they've been stuck on that open sideline for this whole point.
Downey dances his way up the line. So now about 16, 17 yards out. Downey holding, looking for Miller. Miller with a nice shifting move.
Yeah, did the little hesitation move.
And a third straight time, Grady uses basically the same move to get up the line, and this time draws a foul.
Well, not once did they hit a swing back to the center on the whole point. Take a look and see if we can see what happened. It looks like ultimately it's going to stay with Grady.
So a foul, not a strip. Uncontested.
From that angle, obviously very hard to see what happened, but it will stay with Downey.
And we'll see if Grady can navigate this 2 yards of field they've opted to play in. And a deflected catch from Fernandez. Layout catch to save it, but was he in bounds? Greenhill discussing. Take a look now.
Another drop, and then definitely caught, but just right against that back line. And from our vantage point, very, very hard to say. And it looks like the teams can't agree either, so it'll go back. This has been a clumsy offensive possession from Grady.
Well, they've got to find a way to get the disc off the sideline, and they do. Not much, but slightly.
I mean, they have throwers who can throw breaks. They need to hit the arounds.
Downey now with a bit more room to work with. We're running out of time to work with. And I think there's a foul away from the disc.
Oh, a call in the reset space.
Now maybe a foul call on the throw, the late throw.
Well, that was a stall 9 desperation IO forehand from Downey after he didn't have a reset. Because Port put clamps on in the reset space. This time they get free. And that strike cut is not available right now. Downey finally gets there, and there's going to be another foul call.
To be fair, I think another foul.
Yes, that one was definitely a foul. That one was definitely a foul. He had the disc, and it got stripped out of his hands.
So really, it's just been Downey and Miller trying to brute force their way up the line. And so with nothing to do, Downey just throws a hammer into a turnover.
Great reset defense from Nathan Hale. It's been a strength. And now they get over the head of the defense for Hope White, and they've got a chance to tie this game. This is a Hale O point.
It doesn't feel that way, but it is. Port. 8 yards out and miscommunicates with Perkle, so Grady gets it back. Target going deep, and Miller's going to take it every time. Now he's got 2 players wide open, and Medley Fawkes catches it. Easy continue.
And that's a break for Grady. I mean, they had the disc so much on that point that it felt like an O point for them. But it was 3 turnovers for Hale, and Grady eventually puts it in. And here's, after the turnover, immediately picks up, bombs it deep. Nothing but daylight and 2 Grady cutters. And that is a break. It's 5-3.
I mean, if you're Hale, you got to say, look, we found how to stop their offense. Just shut down these handlers going up the line. But somehow you still concede the break. It's got to be frustrating after some really fantastic defense. Now you've got to send the O-line back out there.
Well, these are the situations that test champions. Can you stay mentally engaged? Can you bounce back from a rough point? And this Nathan Hale team has had nothing but success this whole season, both in the Northwest, playing in Washington, and now here at the Invite. I mean, they've basically been unchallenged. This is the first adversity they've seen in quite a while. How will they respond?
Coach Dom Cavallero out there talking to his offense, trying to help them figure out what they need to do.
Our coverage today is presented by Universe Point Cleats. It's cleats designed specifically for Ultimate from the ground up. So they built the cleat pattern, the insole, the upper, the whole thing designed and tested by Ultimate players. And at a very reasonable price point, you can get yourself a pair. And from all the reviews that I've heard, they are extremely comfortable and clearly built for cutting on an Ultimate field.
If we even have a product review on Ultiworld, if you want to check that out and get a more in-depth opinion. As the pull goes up from Miller. Deep pull for Grady. So bad field position to start against the zone. But Perkle throws them out of it. It requires a layout from Conrad Landa. He has nowhere to go after he gets it until he finds Perkle. Now a big gainer for Diker. It's a bit of a jailbreak here for Hale. Maneri, who's come over to the O-line. Inside break. Landa gets low with the layout, and Hale goes back to the campfire.
Warming up.
Got to warm it up.
It's a little breezy out there. They just threw the campfire into the sky.
Well, that can't be safe.
And that's a great bounce back point. We talked about it before the point. How do they respond? Well, they respond by playing an excellent sequence of offense, including a little layout into the end zone. And something to keep an eye on. Dempsey Hope White looking pretty frustrated on the sidelines. And I'm not sure if he's just upset with his play so far or if he's maybe feeling like he's hurt, injured in some way. But we'll definitely keep an eye on that. He's been a key part of their success this weekend. But off to a rough start here with 3 turns. And you wonder if the stare down on the first point maybe got in his head a little bit.
So Efron ready with the pull. You could see a gust of wind and how that affected the flight of that pull. Barry with the disc. And Downey again forced to work so hard to try and get open. Trying to shake Xavier Fondrich. And now a deep throw going up to Persons, who had lots of separation, but the throw just not far enough.
Great heads-up defense from George Drumheller. Got his head around just in time to get the block.
But the throw given back. Barry gets it to Downey. Downey finally gets that inside break. I think he's been looking for that with how committed they are to stopping him going up the line. Jakes into the end zone for Dillard, and Dillard drops it, and Grady cannot get rid of the dropsies.
They have had some bad ones, and it feels like the kind of thing that could cost them a game. They've got to iron it out.
It feels fortunate, honestly, that they haven't really had to pay for it yet. Efron, pump fakes. Comes back for Alex Katz. Katz, deep throw. Lots of room. And it hangs just, it blades over away from the cutter.
The wind.
A combination of throwing mechanics and a poor read.
And honestly, I think that was more wind than anything else. It looked like he was tracking it perfectly, and then all of a sudden the disc popped up in the air and pushed about 15 yards further than he anticipated. And I honestly don't know if he could have made that catch. I'm not sure it was a misread as much as it was an unfortunate gust that happened to catch maybe as the disc got past the press box area and the wind was able to kind of shear across and push it.
Injury sub for Grady. Pearlstein subs out for Medley Fawkes.
Look at the pressure from Hale.
And another situation where the reset defense forced Grady away from Aiden Downey. And Downey is doing his darndest to free himself up, but the team's got to find something else.
I mean, if they thought they were going to be able to just run strike cuts all game against this Nathan Hale team, they got another thing coming. So they're going to have to deal with the fact that they're not going to keep getting those, that they have to have a different sequence in their reset if they're going to want to. Obviously, if you start hitting the arounds, those uplines become more available. But right now, Nathan Hale knows what they need to do, but their D-line can't get it going.
Well, one thing we've seen from this team is putting Downey downfield. And he starts this point downfield and immediately goes back and gets it. He has a different matchup now. He has been being blanketed by Xavier Fondrich, but has escaped that matchup for a brief moment. Downey. High release, reset to Barry, and the drops just plaguing Grady.
And a timeout from Nathan Hale. And a good one. Their D-line has obviously been generating plenty of turnovers, but they've had almost no offense. They did get the deep cut open, but caught an unfortunate bit of wind, and I think everyone on both sidelines probably learning from that throw, like, can't expose that bottom of the disc to that side of the field or you're going to have the disc get pushed out to the far side.
Well, also in my experience, the higher the throw, the more the wind's going to get to it. The wind just seems to get stronger when the disc is higher up. And so putting up a really sailing huck can be a real challenge to keep it from being exposed to those elements. Grady's offense, meanwhile, just almost completely shut off from the break side right now. So a credit to the Hale defense for taking that away. For many teams, when you can't make the difficult break throw, in order to get to the break side, you just run a reset. But Grady's had no ability to get the disc backwards. The other thing they could try and do is fill from the stack rather than rely on just the dump cutter to find a way to get open. They've been locking in on that one look, and when it's not there, they have to punt. But there are a number of issues to be had here, and fixing any one of them could lead to a big difference in the game. And Grady's still got the lead, and they have probably 5 drops.
Well, yeah, I mean, you said it. They haven't been punished. Every time they've had turns on O points, they've been able to get it back and hold.
So the disc back in with Cats. Hale struggled with some drops as well as Cats saves that from floating too far. But Fondrich can't come up with that one either. So execution errors running rampant. And a huge layout block. Hale fired up after Robert Christ gets horizontal to get the disc back.
Set it up so perfectly. Timed the layout perfectly. Great block and another chance for a break.
Here's a jump ball. Both players trying to read it.
And again, with that outside in forehand is getting pushed. Oh, and there's a foul call here. Well, I agree with the crowd on this one. That's not a good call. He had position, and that disc went over his head. I can't even really imagine what he's trying to call.
It looked like Fernandez was really trying to make sure that he wasn't going to foul him once Fernandez realized that he couldn't make a defensive play on the disc because it was going to get over their heads. But from what I've seen of these two teams this weekend, it's hard to imagine that either's going to concede the point here. So 9 turnovers between the two teams. This one would be a 10th on this point alone.
And they're going to send it back. So contested foul.
And for two teams that have loved the deep game, this wind could force them to find a different way to be effective. So now we get to do the enjoyable activity of trying to figure out where everybody was.
Disagreement between Hale and Grady.
So Cats looks like settling with Downey where they should be in and what the stall count's going to be. Downey does a nice job taking away the around with Persons. And with some confusion, perhaps there was a contact call that the downfield did not realize. Inside break to Fondrich. From Heller back to Cats. Cats around break, foot blocked by Downey. Not going to be any conversation about that one.
Stuffed.
Just a little too obvious.
And it's just another chance missed for this D-line. Can Grady get the hold?
And I didn't know if it was going to be a factor, but I saw Maneri get ready to go on the line for this defense and then come back off. Maybe after playing that 0 point, they didn't want him to play 2 in a row. But you got to think that they miss him as a handler right now.
Well, I was just getting ready to say if they scored it, it was impressive that they were able to do so with essentially a pure D-line out there and not relying on their top players.
And here's a scoring opportunity for Grady, but again misread in the wind. These teams have not yet learned their lesson as Barry's throw gets over the head of Medley Fox.
And certainly a break here would be extra valuable for Hale because they've got their best players resting.
Well, and yeah, Hale is going to send out a seven new players probably no matter what. But I think there's probably 3-4 players on Grady who probably were slated to go on the next point. Now, no Adam Miller means at least one fresh face. And another drop. These two teams just trading mistakes and who can buckle down when they need to.
Maybe some nerves. It's a big game, big crowd.
Downey, high pressure. Great scuba to get out of it. Medley Fox frustrated, exasperated really with his teammates for not hitting him. And this time, Barry catches it. Frustration from Hale, knowing that that one slipped through their fingers.
6 chances. That's you got to put one of those in. And I think the coaching staff may recognize we have to have one of our top 2 or 3 offensive players on the field if we're going to get a break. Downey just got so many throws. You have to respect everything. You know, he's got that scuba reset. We saw it earlier in the point. So he fakes it, moves the mark, and then has an easy backhand.
It's an interesting competition between Downey and the defense. They're making him work extremely hard for basically everything, but he's mostly risen to the occasion when forced to. Even in situations where the reset is shut down, he makes a second reset cut and has managed to get it. It doesn't work every time. He isn't just completely taking over the game, but even when forced to really make a difficult play, Downey has mostly been able to answer the call.
And that's what it's going to come down to. You know, can he keep doing that throughout the game into the second half?
You got to think he's starting to get tired at some point.
Right.
He has not taken a point off.
And can Hale, as we have a timeout on the field, can Hale keep that pressure on? We've seen them get good pressure on the Grady offense, particularly on their handlers. And they've gotten turns from that. We just watched them have a point with 6 turnovers. And they weren't able to score. So are those breaks going to start to fall? When do you decide to stack your lines if you're Nathan Hale? Waiting until the second half is a reasonable choice. You have a D-line out there. You rest your top players. And they force a 10, 15-minute point that grinds down the best players from Grady. And there's still a lot of time left in this game.
Grady still huddled in the timeout.
Again, if you didn't get a chance to watch the girls' final earlier, High Country taking on Nathan Hale, make sure you watch it. Fantastic match between 2 very good high school teams, and I won't spoil it for you if you haven't watched it, but go watch and enjoy the best game I've seen this weekend. And you know, as good as a high school game as you can really ask for.
Yeah, these two teams have – Hale has mostly cruised. Grady struggling in pool play a little bit. Weren't able to really put teams away. Won all their games by somewhere between 1 and 3 points. But today they have come out with renewed fire, and it's brought them to the final. And they're trying to score the upset over Hale. Hale widely regarded as the best boys team in the country.
Now, they've been number 1 all season after winning Washington State Championship. And they've looked like the best team this weekend, but they're in a hole here to Grady.
Interesting to me, personnel-wise, that Maneri is not on for this point either.
Well, I think they want him on the defense, and you can see why.
But by that token, they should have just played him last point. But now their offense has to get it done, and they have the personnel to do so. Perkle on the sideline against this zone. Finds just a little bit of room, although a call may prevent this.
I think the call is being rescinded. Maybe a travel call that wasn't a good one.
So the disc will stay in the hands of Dean.
Robert Medier taking that call back.
Dean floats one up ahead to Port. Downey shuts off the break side for Hope White. Red zone offense, and Dean tries that kind of air bounce backhand he used for an earlier assist, and this time it doesn't bounce.
Well, tough to throw that throw up into the wind. And he gets punished for trying it.
Miller centers to Downey. Cutting a little stagnant, so Downey puts one up. And as so many of these forehands from left to right on your screen have done, it heads to the low side of the field. When you talk about the field as a low and high side, you're kind of thinking about it as a tilt, as if the far side of the field from your camera, from your screen, is downhill. So the disc is going to roll that way. At some point, the cutters have to realize when the throw goes up, it's going to go. If it has any edge on it, it's going that way. So I need to start making my cut with that in mind.
Right. I mean, the wind has just picked up during this game. It was not windy when we started the match, and all of a sudden, the storms in the area pushed some wind through, and it has definitely affected the flight of the disc after a weekend with almost no wind.
And a miscue, going to give a short field to Grady. Poachy defense, and just a mistake from Hale, and there around break from Miller to Downey for another Grady break. They lead 7-4.
Well, it adds to the value of the score from Grady on offense going upwind last point. You know, Hale, they got the 6 chances to get a downwind break. They don't get it. Grady scores upwind, and then we watch as Grady is able to apply enough pressure to get a downwind break and take a 3-point lead, their largest of the game. Just stepping through the contact, Downey all alone at the front of the end zone.
Downey now with 3 assists, 2 goals, and a pair of blocks with just a single turn.
Wow. And I mean, it feels like he's playing that well. You know, that the stats match the eye test right now. He's been the best player on the field.
I think that's unquestionable.
You know, you mentioned on the earlier point, he said he stopped the break side. That was Hope White trying to get open to the break side space and completely shut down. And that, you know, Hope White, very, very strong cutter, very quick, very fast. And Downey just outplaying in that matchup right now.
I wonder if they'll consider moving him to defense. An athlete like that could make a big difference against the size and speed of Grady.
Yeah, you could throw those forehands, and he's going to go chase it down. He's got the speed to do that.
But he's not out for this O-line point. Maneri taking his spot on the line.
And it kind of makes sense. You want a little more handler, a little less cutter in this wind. And Veneri offers that as we see the Grady D-line looking to take half.
Shirar Ali guiding the Grady Gauntlet team. Is co-coach Max Leonard not in attendance? So the pull goes up from Miller. And now Perkle will take it and again find a Grady zone staring him down. And Veneri saves Perkle from what would have been a problematic mistake.
Yeah, he threw a ham sandwich and it got bailed out.
Can't play ultimate with ham sandwiches.
No.
Perkle, high release break for Veneri, and Veneri a laser forehand to the end zone. And even he is not immune to the throwing mistakes that have been sending this Hale team reeling.
Well, now they've got to play some defense. You know, you can't give up the upwinder here. And they do play some defense, but we may have a foul call. There was definitely some contact between the two players.
I feel like it was after the outcome of the play had already been decided. And I don't think that the only way for Veneri to make that play was for there to be contact. So I would contest the foul, which is Veneri did. And then that time, no call, even a ton of contact as Veneri flies in for a poach block. And now to the break side, towed in by Conrad Landa. Now it's 7-5.
So a hold for Hale downwind. Dump back, and then a high release backhand. Nice line toe there from Landa.
And that time, I'm surprised there was no foul call. I mean, I think the only way for Veneri to get that block was to collide with the guy he was getting the block on. And I don't think it was an egregious amount of contact, but it certainly felt like it impacted the end of the play. And after the foul call that just happened, it was very surprising to me to not see any contention about that at all.
Maybe a makeup call from Grady. I don't actually think that. But yeah, I mean, I think, you know, different players have different acceptable levels of contact. Maybe felt that it didn't cause the turnover or impact the ability to make a catch.
And to be fair, I would estimate 80 yards away from where the play happened. So my perspective leaves something to be desired. But D.Y. Chen giving this Hale defense some guidance.
And the swirly wind continues.
Efron on the pull. Barry over to Jakes. Inside break for Person. Downey's taking off, gets separation, but Dillard bobbles the under. And Dillard claiming that he saved it before it fell to the ground. From my perspective, I thought it touched the turf, but I couldn't say with certainty.
Let's take a look. It was very close either way. And, oh, man, was that close. And they're going to call it a turnover. So Good moment of spirit from Grady.
Maneri to the end zone for Efron, but that one's short.
Yeah, he just short-armed it a little bit and throwing into that wind. And he had the cutter, too. If that throw is 5 yards further, it's a break upwind.
I mean, maybe the Hale coaching staff knew more about Veneri than we did, because we thought he might be an answer to some of their throwing woes, but he's got 2 throwing turnovers since coming back on. Downey around to Dillard. Barry looking deep for Fernandez, and Efron gets the block.
Nice play by Efron. Aggressive to the disc without fouling. And it's the 70 yards to go for the Hale offense.
Maneri slices one to the break side to initiate. Inside break, and a odd block by Barry, who fell down and then while on the ground stuck a hand up to get the block.
So awesome to stay heads up and make a play in a situation where maybe you just wouldn't think about anything except getting back on your feet.
Persons hits the turf to save that one. Now Grady stoppage after Dillard ran out of bounds, but there is no actual call, so now there's no real stoppage. But
take a look at the block from Reed Barry. He comes to try to poach, slips, and gets his left mitt on it, and able to take possession back for Grady.
Another poor throw, though. I think if Barry doesn't fall, it's an easy poach block.
Easy block.
And Veneri almost got lucky that Barry couldn't get to it, but Barry able to stay with the play. And another extensive discussion between the players. This going back to Downey from Dillard. Downey lifts a backhand to Barry. He goes down. Downey up line and just gets it, and the Aiden Downey show continues, much to the chagrin of Nathan Hale. However, the show is going to take a break because we're going to halftime. 8-5, Grady leads.
Well, with about 30 minutes left before the soft cap goes on, there's obviously plenty of time left for Hale, but they're going to have to figure out how they can sharpen up their offense in this halftime break. Their defense has been good. They've had plenty of turnovers. They've had lots of chances, but their offense has really struggled, especially their D-line O, and that's going to have to change if they want to get back in this one. As for Grady, well, they just got to keep doing what they're doing. I mean, aside from the drops, they've had a great game so far and showed good quality offense going both ways and plenty of pressure on Nathan Hale's D.
Yeah, both teams have things to fix, but Grady has the advantage. I mean, they have managed to muscle through their mistakes better than Hale, and so they'll take a 3-goal lead into the halftime. 8-5, Grady leads at the end of the first half. We'll be back in just a few minutes for the second half. Welcome back to Ulti World's live coverage of the 2018 High School National Invite. Our final half of Ultimate. Here, the boys' final. Grady getting ready to pull to Nathan Hale with an 8-5 lead, favoring Grady. I'm Keith Rayner, joined by Charlie Eisenhood, coming to you live from Rockford, Illinois, and our coverage of this tournament presented by Universe Point, whose Ultimate specific cleats are basically the hottest new thing you can get to help you perform better. Now, it has been a very impressive first half by Grady star Aiden Downey. Execution errors on both sides and adjustments to be made, so this game is still up in the air, even with Grady's early lead.
Oh, absolutely. And you got Hale going downwind to start. So they're a pair of breaks, upwind and then a downwind, away from being tied in this game. And that often means that getting that upwind break is really the key. Because getting the downwinder, we saw last time that Grady had an upwind O point, it was 6 chances for Hale, and they could put it in. So if they can get that upwinder, hey, anything could happen at that point. But for now, they've just got to stay strong on offense. And that's been tough at times as we watch them turn it over in the midfield.
More Grady zone, more drops. Both teams have had them. Grady's been able to find a way to deal with it at least for a little while. Downey goes up ahead to Dillard. Dillard hand blocked, but a foul called.
Wow, I don't know about that.
Ben Diker trying to get it back after the drop, and seems to believe it's a clean block.
That is a big mark over there. He is putting a lot of pressure on that around swing, and obviously you got a hand on that. Whether it was a foul, whether it was just out of the hand, of course, that's the only person who knows, and even the players themselves may not really know. Such a bang-bang play.
Up ahead from Miller to Bradley. Date Downey into the end zone. And another break for Grady.
What a start to the second half for Grady. You get the turn. You're efficient with the disc. And then watch as they work the disc around the horn. The first, the second, and then the backhand into the end zone. That's perfect red zone offense, and that's been an area where they've really excelled. And I think having Aiden Downey on your team makes it a whole lot easier to get stuff done in the red zone because he has such an array of skills. Obviously, he can cut and get open, but he can also throw the high-release flick that we saw earlier. He can hit the around. It just, when you have a player of that caliber, it makes it so much easier to get a scoring throw because you can just give it to them and make a cut to the break side, and he can find you.
4 assists, 3 goals in the game, as well as a pair of blocks, and just 1 credited turnover. Downey has been a fixture on the score sheet, and the junior still has another year to get better before he becomes the coveted pride of some very lucky college program.
Well, I'm sure Joja is already recruiting him hard, but he'll have his choice of plenty of recruiting after this weekend. He's probably going to be one of the top 5 high school players in the country next year.
He might be now.
Yeah. It's a good point. I mean, there's plenty of talent on hand here this weekend, and he has stood out. He has shown above all of these talented players, and he's certainly going to be a key recruit in 2 years.
That pull out of bounds.
It's hard to overstate the importance of this upcoming O point for Hale.
I mean, it kind of feels like if they won't have any chance in this game, they have to score.
Yeah. And, it's to come out of half, all of your discussion about the adjustments you want to make and you're right in this game and you come out and you have a drop to give the opponent a short field and then they get an upwind break, that can be crushing. So once again, it's an extremely important point.
Maneri and Port. Little two-man game to gain some yards. And it looks like that forces a transition out of Grady. So Port now on the far third. Perkle to Veneri, and it pops up in the wind, but enough separation for Veneri to recover.
Great marks from Grady. It's something we haven't talked about much yet. Port not quite in the end zone, just catching it on the line.
Dishes to Veneri for the goal, and Hale gets the hold that we said would be so critical.
And a good one.
9-7.
Now they had the scary pass to Veneri on the far sideline, but he makes a play. And, they're going to need that. They're going to need some guys to make some plays. Good inside break here at Port. Port is patient and waits for his receiver to open up, and they punch in a much-needed upwind hold. It was downfield level during halftime, and more than anything, it's blustery. It's not a heavy, sustained wind, but it's enough to make you think, and then the wind will kick up. And I think we saw that at points in the first half, especially on some throws. A throw would be going along, and then the wind would kick up and push it up or push it far to the other sideline.
I mean, if that feels like an uncontrollable, and it is. You can't actually control the wind, but you can reply to that context and figure out the best way to play and the adjustments you have to make. For example, being really heads up downfield because throws may not go where intended. So just assuming is a mistake because the team that's more aware, maybe the team that recovers more of the garbage, may mean following a throw to the low side as the backside trail because there may be a situation where it pops up and hangs up. Not giving up on throws that look like they're going to sail because they may get popped up by the wind. Those types of little things are things you can control that increase the likelihood of you making the play in the wind. Downey. His reset popped up. So it'll be intercepted.
Yeah, Downey tried to throw essentially a little pop backhand with basically no spin, and the wind ate it up.
Maneri trying to work with Hale to get into the end zone from about 10 yards out. And another one pops up, but Maneri reads it.
And Maneri got away with an enormous travel. Nobody called it.
Yeah, the whole crowd was basically about to call it.
Wow. So Hale erases the upwind break that they gave up by getting an upwind 0-point hold and then breaking downwind back to a 2-point game.
And they're fired up. We talked about season momentum in this game, and this might be a chance for Hale to do just that.
And see, again, these air bounce backhands are not going to work in the wind. But they get away with it, and Veneri finds Port, and it's a break for Hale.
So 9-8 now with 12 minutes and change remaining until the soft cap. Again, there is no hard cap. Got to score to win. So we'll find out if Grady can respond. They have held the advantage for most of this game. There was they gave up a break after they got the game's first break to bring it back to even. Excuse me. That's about as much adversity as they faced. This is only the second break they've given up.
Well, and, Grady put themselves in the driver's seat early in the first half, really before the wind even kicked up. They got out to the hot start, and now they have the lead, and all they have to do is get downwind holds, and they're going to win the game. So the onus is on Hale to make a move. And clearly they have the talent offensively to score upwind. We've seen it.
Downey up ahead to Dillard, and I think Dillard may have been playing the player line as the field line.
That's 100% what happens.
And just a lack of awareness there.
He never even thought about the sideline. He thought he had an extra 5 yards of space. And so it's a short field turnover, and Hale with a golden chance here to get an upwinder.
Maneri in the middle. Break side throw, and then an easy continue. The crowd goes wild for Hale as they score a third straight to make it 9-8.
And what a bounce back after coming out of halftime and getting broken upwind to then go on a 3-0 run. You'd love to see that resilience, and obviously a very unfortunate turnover for Grady. But this time, they don't need multiple possessions. They get the break first try.
And this has been a problem Grady has had all weekend. All throughout pool play, they could not put teams away. So Hale trying to mount the same type of comeback other teams have failed to complete against Grady. So we see a timeout on the field. Grady looking to respond to this 3-0 run from their Seattle opponents.
And, you know, this is where fatigue becomes a factor. It's your 7th game of the weekend if you're Grady, both of these teams. You've been running your top players out point after point. Can they continue to execute and be effective when you're going against an opponent that has a deeper bench?
Aiden Downey's definitely played every point.
And Grady took a timeout as they continue to huddle up. And Nathan Hale got their line out there. And we're starting to see some crossovers. We're starting to see them stack their lines. And we talked about when they would do this. And, you know, it's crunch time. Still down 1. Cap's getting closer. And they're going to start asking their top players to go out there and get them a break. And it feels like this 3-0 run happened so quickly. It was 9-5 just 6-7 minutes ago. And now it feels like all of the momentum in the game is swung in favor of Hale. I mean, it's now Grady that's facing that situation that Hale faced coming out of halftime.
Grady broke to start the half. It looked like that might be it. We said that next point was probably the last chance Hale was going to have. And not only did they seize that point by the horns, but they dragged it with them. Now they're down just 1. And the crowd here certainly favoring Hale. There are a number of other Seattle teams in the field. No other teams from Georgia. Plus, you know what? People love a comeback, Charlie.
People want to see an exciting game, Keith.
Initiation for Grady.
And Grady does a nice job of hitting those unders. Oh, and a tackle in the midfield, and just an unacceptable play.
Yeah, I appreciate the remorse from the Hale player, but never want to see an unsafe play. Fernandez underneath for Downey. Downey gets position up the line. You can't concede that to him. And now he throws up the line to Fernandez. Grady gets the hold. Fernandez has been a huge goal scorer for Grady this weekend, but that is just his first of this game, or second, excuse me.
That's a timely goal, and it just back-to-back up the line cuts, and just bad defensive work there from Hale after really adjusting well, I thought, in the first half to Grady's reliance on those strike cuts. But that time, maybe because they had some more offensive line players out there, caught flat-footed, and Grady gets a really, really important upwind hold to go back up by 2.
Yeah, I think with the talent that Downey possesses, you're definitely not going to beat him if you don't outwork him. There's just nobody here talented enough to beat him just one-on-one without working that hard. You have to outwork him and then some. So Grady able to pop the balloon a little bit. Now the 2-point lead and a little under 5 minutes left on the clock before we go to the soft cap.
A Wilmington chant getting going in the crowd.
Brand is strong.
Very strong.
There is a 90% chance that someone associated with the Wilmington program is watching this stream and is pumping their fist right now. So Miller readies the pull. Hale's offense still facing that Grady zone. Hasn't been a ton of adjustments. Just been a game about execution. Maneri up ahead. Hope White, a jailbreak, and I think a travel call against Maneri. After he got away with that other one, even though this wasn't a travel,
let's take a look. Maneri comes under. Well, that doesn't look like a travel to me. Planted
did
that
or did
foot?
not?
No.
I didn't see
He
one.
planted that foot, threw it, didn't drag his toe.
So now defense and offense trying to figure out where everybody should be. And I believe a pick call. Looks like Grady's going to take the opportunity to transition to match. And Downey with the poach block.
Lightning quick into that space.
So now he's not even marked, but doesn't really get a lot out of it. He's still unmarked. Downey up the line. Grady a little stagnant downfield, relying on the handlers to get things moving for him.
And Hope White not playing very tight defense on Downey. He goes to the high release forehand, and that is absolute cash.
I mean, that's a gift for your receiver. You just kind of jog to the break side, and Downey flies a drone into the break side for a score. I saw him take out the remote control. It's the only explanation for how he controlled the flight of this throw.
He had the joystick out for this one.
Look at it drop right in.
Phenomenal. And the confidence to throw that in these conditions. going downwind, the high release is a fine option, but it's still that's an exceptionally difficult throw. Most players don't have that throw, even a short distance one, to throw it 25 yards, put it right where you need to. That's a plus throw from Aiden Downey.
And a couple points ago, we were saying, how will this Grady team respond? They have struggled to put teams away. Well, they got right up off the canvas and threw an uppercut right back into Hale's jaw.
And the soft cap will go on during this point. That means that this is either going to be a game to 13 or to 14. So if Hale scores a hold and makes it 11-9, it will be a game to 13 because you add 2 to the 11. If Grady breaks, then it will be 12-8, game to 14. There is no hard cap, so they will play to that total, whatever it is, and you will have to score to win. And it's been a exciting back and forth second half with both teams going on runs.
So the soft goes on. So we'll wait till the conclusion of this point to figure out our new total. Pull goes out of bounds. Zone from Grady as Hale gets back underway. Now, one thing I like about this zone is that they do pressure the reset, particularly when the disc is near the sideline. Fernandez taking on that job right now. Maneri fakes open some room and then small balls his way into the end zone, and you can see how effective he is in tight windows.
What a sequence from Tony Maneri. Both teams just asking their players to step up, and he catches this one, throws a couple big hard fakes, fakes the defender to the ground, gives and goes, and then immediately without hesitation fires that forehand into the end zone without even setting his feet. That's phenomenal.
Fourth assist for Maneri. These two guys, Maneri and Downey, are going to be teammates. So I'm sure they're happy to think, oh, that guy's going to be on my side in the future.
So it is 11-9, game to 13. And it's going to require at least 3 breaks from Hale. The wind has died down a little bit since halftime. And Nathan Hale does get the added benefit of their championship girls team on the sideline.
Yeah, they could take a couple notes from Hale, who mounted the comeback to win the title.
Defeating High Country in the girls' final on double championship point.
Another team that was relying on a couple throwers to do a lot of the work. So Hale stacking the line a little bit here. A number of those top O-line players coming over. Downey fields the pull. Gainer up to Pearlstein. Miller completely unguarded right now. Perhaps confusion on the line, perhaps a poach. Fernandez up line to Downey. Downey considering the crossfield throw and takes it, but Maneri sizes it up for the block.
Well, that is an extra high-risk pass. And it does not pay off. And Hale will take over on the goal line. We're going to make it a 1-point game.
Up line throw to space, and Downey One good turn deserves another. As Downey steals it back. Throw to space, and Port's the first one there.
And a lot of contact there in the air, but everyone's all right. Downey sets the mark. Port throws it ahead.
Big throw. And there's the sky by Efron. Maneri. Hope White just a couple yards out. And a little flip to Maneri. It's 11-10, Charlie.
Hale with the upwind break. And now going downwind on defense. Maneri running the show in the end zone set. Throws the swing pass and then goes strike and gets the little push pass dish from Hope White. And they now have a chance to tie it up going downwind. They were in this same situation, 3-4 points ago, and Grady put together a great upwind holes. Can Grady do it again?
Two risky throws from Grady on that point, is particularly given the wind, the crossfield 50-yard hammer, and then the air bounce backhand to a player straight up the line from you. Both really difficult to execute, and perhaps a little bit greedy on Grady's part.
An undoubtedly pro-Hale crowd fired up after the break.
We're here in Rockford, Washington. We're actually in Illinois. Downey receives over to Miller. Great timing on this undercut from Fernandez. Grady does a great job counter-cutting off of their deep cuts and setting up unders for yardage after they go deep.
Yeah, they have a really nice host stack. A lot of disciplined cutting. The problem has been in the reset space for them. They haven't been able to swing the disc off the sideline, but their cutters have done a great job of finding open side space pretty consistently.
Downey, just as you say, they haven't done a good job swinging the disc off the line. Downey gets a reset and looks off the open swing. Not sure what he might have seen there, but now he comes back for the reset, and it's a jump ball. And given right back, Port intercepts that and then throws it away. A wild sequence at such a critical point in the game. Grady with a second chance now. Dillard. Back to Miller. Downey beats Veneri up the line. And now into the end zone for Fernandez. Perfect touch.
And when you watch Downey throw a throw like that, you wonder why he ever tries the crazy hammer across the field. He has the tools to just command the offense and make the smart throw every time. And this is just great upwind offense again from Grady. They don't get rattled. They have not been rattled. They just keep going. The up line from Downey steps into that power position, mid-range huck, no problem.
I wonder what happened to that Hale defense we saw in the first half that just chained themselves to Aiden Downey. You were not getting up the line without making 10 different moves. And now maybe the fatigue is set in. Maybe it's a focus thing. Maybe it's nerves. But whatever it is, Downey's been able to get a lot more room up the line and in the reset space for the around when he doesn't have the disc than we saw at Hale's highest points.
And obviously, any offense wants to initiate that upline handler motion. It's probably the most valuable real estate for a handler to be getting that forward momentum, catch that disc, no mark, and you can step into that throw. And that's the thing. We watched Hale take that away in the first half. And I think it may in part be personnel. They've brought over more O-line players who maybe aren't as in tune to thinking about, I cannot allow that strike cut. And that's made it possible for Grady to get a couple of key upwind holds here in the second half. And now the pressure goes back over to Hale as Grady is now 1 point away from a victory here at the National Invite.
Really a tough moment for Gabe Port. We'll see how he responds now. Gets the block that his team was seeking and then the immediate throwaway. Really talented player. And now getting a touch right away. One-handed grab from Van Dyker. Person defense now. Grady with the adjustment.
Yeah, they've been running good zone to person transitions.
Yeah, I don't think they've caught him in transition once, but their Dean's throw just a little too little pace in the wind, drops down. Grady picks up with a chance to win the high school national invite.
And Grady takes the timeout.
Grady, probably about 27 yards away from glory.
With a chance to be the second straight Southern Regional team to win the high school national invite. Catholic won the inaugural event last year. Catholic out of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. They've played this Grady team many times. In fact, I'm pretty sure they played in the quarters this morning.
Semifinals.
No, Grady played Center Grove in the semifinals.
Oh, you're right. It was quarters.
In the quarterfinals, they played Catholic and knocked out the defending champions. And now they have a chance to knock out the top team from the Northwest.
And I saw this team at Paideia Cup. They were definitely struggling with some injuries. They had personnel in and out of the lineup, but the level of intensity that they've brought to this tournament is a far cry from where they were when I saw them a few months ago in Atlanta.
Downey over the disc. Looking to take Grady to a championship.
Port on the mark. Horizontal stack downfield. Backhand force. Downey to Fernandez on the open side. Resets to Miller. Downey pushing downfield. Nice wheel cut from Miller.
Great defense from Hale.
Here's a hanging throw. Fernandez in the area, knocked away, however. Drumheller able to make the play and keep Hale alive.
Wow, that's just phenomenal defense out of the timeout. Once again, Grady gets to swing back to the middle, but they don't continue to the high side of the field for no reason whatsoever. I just don't think they're looking to do that. And I don't know that it cost them that possession, but it didn't help because then Stahl gets high and they have to punt, and Hale gets a takeaway.
Hope White wide open underneath. Not really any continue options to speak of. And he's forced to try and throw it. Tough inside throw, and it's immediately turned over by the wind. Now to the end zone, looking for Jaden Fulks. Reed Berry's throw.
And that throw just
too hasty.
It got chewed up by the wind and just never had any loft whatsoever. And a couple times now we've seen just a little too much anticipation of the next throw and throwing a little too quickly. And Hale gets a second chance.
Yeah, Barry in too much of a rush to properly execute the throw. Perkle dancing in the reset space. Gets there late.
Low pass.
Throw.
Easily taken away on the layout.
So the Hale offense sputtering when they need it the most, and now a short field for Grady. Miller centers to Downey, and he goes all the way across the field for Barry. Barry looking for Downey. Downey breaks side scooper to Fernandez for the title. What a season, Charlie, for Grady Gauntlet. Once the number 3 ranked team in the division. Had a big stumble at the Paideia Cup, but recovered to not only win the state title, but to win the high school national invite title as well. A tremendous year for a team mostly loaded with junior talent that will be back next year.
And you got to think, coming off of this championship here at the national invite, they will likely be the number 1 team heading into the preseason of the high school rankings next year, considering that Aiden Downey and a number of other juniors are coming back. It's a very, very talented team.
Downey with an 8-assist, 3-goal, 4-block effort, just 3 turnovers despite a wealth of touches and everything that Hale could throw at him. A tremendous performance for Downey, leading this Grady team to a title.
Unbelievable. It's only on 13 goals. He's had a hand in almost everything. And a hard-fought, well-earned title from Grady, and it's the second year in a row that a fantastic team from Seattle comes up just short in the National Invite Final. Here comes the Gatorade bath, and boom.
What's that smell? ATL, Charlie.
Hope Coach has a change of clothes for the plane ride back to Georgia. Stay with us. We're going to be following the presentation of the championship trophy coming up in just a moment. A second Gatorade bath.
They never see the second one coming, Charlie.
No. You thought it was done.
That one was for their other coach, Max Leonard.
So Grady huddles up. And, Nathan Hale just did not have an answer for Aiden Downey.
That was definitely a part of it, and I think that their defense, which was at points the most impressive thing going in this game for either squad, couldn't maintain that level of intensity, and their offense really never found a rhythm.
Fantastic tournament, though, for Nathan Hale. And surely very disappointed not to come away with a win here, but it's a great team. And I think it's extra impressive that the teams from Seattle managed to stay well prepared despite the fact that they don't play during the spring season, that their season is in the fall.
All right, let's take your attention, please. We'll have both teams come on over.
So we're preparing for the presentation of the second place award to Nathan Hale. And let's listen in with Arnoush Javaharian, the head of cut camps and co-organizer here of the National Invite.
Both teams showed all weekend that they were the two top teams here and arguably in the nation. Coming here and taking care of their pool, taking care of business today, ending up in the finals. 203 teams was absolutely awesome to see, and it was a game for the ages, and it came down to it. So let's go ahead and get going with this. With that said, I'll go and say to you what I said earlier, and when I originally came up with this idea and pitched it to Nick and Charlie, it was an opportunity for us to bring teams from all across the nation to play and determine who's the best. I think we've done that today. We have a team from Seattle, we have a team from Atlanta, from across the nation playing each other. Can we give them a hand, please? How awesome is that? If this tournament didn't exist, this wouldn't have happened. So it's a wonderful thing. So I want to first give a hand for all the work that All Two Worlds put in, live streaming, being here all week. We'll give them a hand, please, for All Two Worlds. Let's also give a hand for who put the tournament together, ran it, the tournament directors, everything. We start with Nick Lindecki and his group. We give a hand for Glue, please. And I know coaches and players receive emails from me all year long, starting way back. I contacted the Seattle teams all the way back in November and October. So, you know, it was our pleasure to do this. So, Cut Camp is here. We're proud to be here. So, let's go and get going with the award. In second place, from Seattle, Raven Hale Raiders. Come on up, please.
So a picture for the Nathan Hale Raiders. Got a wooden disc as a prize for second place. Obviously a disappointed unit, but should be proud of a great weekend and a great season.
Yeah, I think that they made it very clear that they're one of the premier teams and programs in the division.
Not a lot of smiles from Nathan Hale right now, and you can understand that feeling that they have.
And coming from Atlanta, proving that they could arguably be the best team in the nation, Grady Gauntlet. Let's give him a hand, please.
And the High School National Invite Trophy is presented to Grady. It's got Catholic's name on it, and now we will have Grady's. They're also going to be presented with a wooden plaque that they can take home with them. They get to keep the trophy for the year.
As well as the championship trophy for them to keep, as well as these awesome championship hats.
So now a photo with their trophies, and they get their championship hats. So Grady will head back to Georgia as the National Invite champions.
Make the Atlanta Ultimate team proud.
And, you know, they did it in a variety of ways, I thought, in that game, Keith. There was moments of excellent defense. A lot of that game was very sloppy. It wasn't the cleanest game you're going to see. And they were able to persevere through the wind. And I thought what was most impressive is that they had those two really challenging upwind O points where they could have cracked, and they didn't. They got to hold both times. And the fortitude mentally to stay strong in that situation may have made the difference in the game. We're going to need to get them some more hats. Trying to get the coveted layout photo shoot. We're going to have to sign off here pretty soon if we can't get this done.
I don't know. We might have to make him give up the title. There you go. Just hold on to it. It's a photo. Nobody knows. Except for all the
Except for
viewers.
everybody who's watching right now. All right, well, that is going to do it for our coverage. We want to thank our presenting sponsor, Universe Point. They make Ultimate-specific cleats. If you didn't know about this, you got to check it out. UniversePoint.com. They built a cleat specifically for Ultimate. It took them years of prototyping and testing with Ultimate players, designed by Ultimate players for Ultimate players. So check them out, UniversePoint.com, and make the switch. For Keith Rayner, Aiden Shapiro-Layton, and our entire crew, I'm Charlie Eisenhood signing off from the Mercy Sports Score 2 complex in Rockford, Illinois, and that will do it for the 2018 High School National Invite. Thanks so much for joining us, and we hope to see you here next year, right here with Ulti World.